We are going to start binding our skin, and this process can be very complicated, but we want to keep it very simple. So the first thing that you need to know is that when I look at my outliner in Maya, I'm going to see two different colors for two different types of selections. For example, if I select the root joint, you see how it turns this light blue color? That light blue color means that only this joint is selected. When I look out at my perspective view, I can see that the entire skeleton has turned green. Green is the color of selected objects, so I know that out here it looks like the whole skeleton is selected. However, in here only the root joint is selected. So this light blue color means I am selected. On the other hand, if I select the spine mid-joint, I can see that it has the light blue color, and then there's a slightly darker color for the spine low and the root. That's because these are the parents of the selected object. This is still the only thing selected. And over here I can see that none of the children are selected, even though, again, out here they are this green color. So when I bind my skin, I also know that I don't want any of these end joints to be selected. There are a couple of ways that I can do that. One is that I can go through and hold down my control key. I think that that is the command key on a Macintosh computer, but I could be wrong. You may have to try them both. The control key will allow me to select the elements down this chain and then skip this and move on to here, so that as I'm going through here I can see that I'm not selecting the end joint in any of my chains. Some of you will like this because it feels very tactile, and as you're going through, you are in charge of selecting. Some of you may say, this takes too long. Isn't there like a select by name feature? And the answer to that is yes. Let me just find it for you. So if you look up across this bar here, this bar is called the status line, and it's got a whole bunch of these things that are closed. So the closed things have a little line with a little flag sticking out. If I click on the little flag, I can show or hide the selection field. So these are different selection options. I'm going to click on this icon here, and that icon will allow me to switch to dun, 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 select by name. In select by name, I'm going to put in an asterisk, which serves as a wildcard, and then I'm going to put in a capital J and a capital T, because that is the thing that I'm using for the joints that I want to bind to my skin. Then I'm going to put in another asterisk in case I accidentally put some characters in after my joint. That's fun. Sometimes it happens. If you're building a tail, you usually have 5 or 6 tail joints that are just called like tail joint 1, tail joint 2, tail joint 3. So it's good to have an asterisk before and after. Select by name is also case sensitive, so I hope that all of your joint appellations are either uppercase or lowercase, but consistency does count. When I press enter up here, you'll see that Maya does in fact select all of my JTs, which is pretty neat. So when I do go in for my bind, these are the things that will be selected. The other thing that I need to select is my character geometry, which right now is on this templated layer. That's fine, that means I can't select it out here, but I can still select it in the outliner, so I'm going to hold down my control key and click on my geometry, which in this case is called low poly body. In order to bind the skin to the joints, I'm going to use the skin menu, bind skin, option box. In my bind skin options, I'm going to bind exclusively to the joints that I have selected. So when you open it, it'll probably be at its default settings. Bind to is set to joint hierarchy, which will do all the joints. That is not what I want. I'm going to bind to selected. the bind method is set to closest distance. You can try these others and see if any of them do anything for you. They each should give you a slightly different result. Whether that result is good or bad, I don't know. Closest distance is the dumbest. It just looks at each joint, determines which vertices are closest to that joint, and binds those vertices to the joint. Totally fine. If I go on down, heat map and geodesic voxel are the smartest ones, hypothetically, but they're also the ones that the most stuff can go wrong with. So I usually just stick to closest distance and figure that I'm going to redo all of my weight painting anyway. So I'll set that there. My skinning method I'm going to leave set to classic linear. We'll talk about that when we get to weight painting. The only other thing that I'm really going to change is this max influence value, which is set to 5, and that means that any given vertex in my model can be influenced by up to 5 different joints. That is too many. I'm going to set that down to 3, which will still give me pretty smooth bending between my joints, but will not drive me absolutely insane when I go to do my weight painting. So this should all be fine, just like that. I'm going to hit apply, and at this point my skin should be bound. Some of you may see your skeleton turn pretty colors. That is because of this colorize skeleton button. If you unchecked it, your joints would not turn pretty colors, and as you've seen with mine, it is highly unreliable because my one foot turned colors and the rest of my skeleton did not. That's fine, it means nothing. It really does. Colorize skeleton is stupid. It's pretty. I leave it turned on in case it works, but if it doesn't, don't sweat it. If your skeleton turns colors, great. Don't worry, mine didn't, but yours still might. That's okay. Just leave it alone. Colors don't matter. The thing that does matter is this. I've got my hip joint selected. I'm going to rotate it, and you can see that my character's leg will now rotate with the joints, which is pretty cool. Here's my arm, up, down, and here's my shoulder. Whee! I can shrug. It may help you to turn your geometry back on, and some people may even like turning off X-ray joints so that you can really see what each of the joints is doing at this point, because they will all be doing different things, and some things you might like and some things you may not like. But I'm going to keep this video nice and short so that you have a chance to just kind of mess around with your joints before we start doing the weight painting. So have some fun with your joints, make sure that they're all working. You know, there's my knee. And in the next video, I will tackle weight painting.